So a lot of the people that I've met, I realized that they stop at saying, oh, there's a problem. And then they say, okay, let's just let the problem sit there for as long as it can be. Or we can maybe look at the problem for a little bit and then cover it up again because it's just too much to keep talking about it.
Yeah.
So in that case, you are not really cherishing the relationship, are you? You know, you're not really investing in it. You're avoiding it. You're not giving it the environment where it can truly flourish.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the first step, yes, attraction leads to connection, leads to the decision to actually want to make things work.
Okay, Winifred, thanks for being with us. I understand that you can help people with love problems, love stuff. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct, Nasim.
So what do you mean exactly? Like, do you help people who are single, people who are in relationship, couple, married, not married?
Okay, so I'm a couples therapist. So by that definition, I help couples. So that's my primary group of people whom I work with. But I also work with individuals who are struggling with relationship issues. And so either they come in separately, singles, or even in married life, but they would like to enhance their own skills. I definitely also support this group of people.
You talk about skills. What do you mean exactly?
Skills in terms of communication, in terms of like expressing oneself, being vulnerable, accepting influence from the other party. Because in a relationship, it is a lot about give and take. So you would need to be able to receive. And sometimes there are certain characteristics that will hinder the connection when you are stubborn or you are slow to accepting influence. Do they have resistance in receiving influence from their partner? You know, are they fear around it of being controlled by the other person? You know, so these are some of the important skills that individuals want to have before they get into the relationship.
Thank you. Like for me, what resonates a lot is that fear of being controlled. I mean, for me, my past experience is that there is a fear of being taken advantage of that comes back very often. Do you see some pattern? Do you see differences between men and women? What are the main fears? Like, are there the same fears between men and women? Or
there are certainly some differences. And I think that for men in particular, there is a higher fear of losing control. And I think that a lot of men that I've seen so far value their independence and autonomy. So they do not like to be told what to do or do not like to feel like they're under the control of the spouse or the wife or the partner, right? And because it may give them the impression that they are being weak. So I think there is that part of it where the sense of self is challenged when they need to compromise.
Yeah. Like for me, when I'm in situations like this, it's more in terms of value, but I understood that seeing love as a transactional thing is not very healthy. So, you know, that transfer of value, right? I'm doing this for you, and this is what you do in return. You know, that type of situation.
Right. So you're talking about transactional relationship, right?
Yeah.
So I give you this and you give me something else.
Yeah.
I think that in any relationship, there is some element of transaction, you know, whereby there must be a value that I'm receiving from you and I'm giving to you. That is the honest truth. Partnership requires some kind of a interdependence that way. You know, so it is not a bad thing to say that, okay, how am I giving to you and how am I receiving from you? A healthy relationship is one, there is this give and back, give and take. And then like, you know, and it is not like 50-50, but it should not be like 20-80.
Yeah.
Right. So it should be like perhaps 40-60, 55, 65-35, you know, and then there's like times when I give a little bit more. There are times when you give a little bit more. But there should be that kind of a reciprocity. So we're talking about reciprocity here rather than transaction, you see.
Yeah. And for me, one thing I struggle with a lot of things. So it's, you know, it's in terms of communicating, voicing my needs, etc. You know, like, for example, when we look at that give and take, right? I have this idea that if that person cannot understand what I need without me having to say it or ask for it, then that's it. She's not for me, you know, and that makes me feel very uncomfortable because I feel almost like shameful and embarrassed, you know, to the point that I do not voice this thing. Like, for example, like yesterday I was reading this thing in A New Pair of Glasses. I sent it to you. The guy talks about love is action, you know, like just taking action instead of talking about it, or, you know, and this is what I do, you know, I take loving actions and I do that, and I don't, you know, I don't make too much of a big deal about it, right? But there is something at the back of my head that is like, wow, it's been a while that you are doing all of this now, and there is nothing much going on the other side. So,
yeah.
And how do I navigate with this thing?
Sure.
Do I say it? Do I like go time out? Can we, you know?
Yeah. Okay, that's a very, very good question. And I appreciate your honesty about it as well. I think a lot of people do struggle with really expressing themselves. So there is this idea of like, if you love me, you should know what I need, right? Not just for women. Women are a bit more likely to think that, you know, if I have to tell you everything, then where is the initiative? If I tell you and you do it, then it doesn't count. You know, I hear this a lot.
Wow.
I hear this a lot from women. I mean, I'm sure for men as well. Yeah. You're surprised. Are you?
Yeah, I'm very surprised. If I tell you and you do it, it doesn't count.
Yeah, some
Holy
women would
cow.
think that. Yeah, they're like,
oh man.
And so I would have to explain to the ladies and say that, then aren't you making it really hard for your partner?
Yeah, it's so
because
unfair.
because they give it to you, then you say it doesn't count because I told you so. If they don't do it, you get upset and get annoyed. So that is not the right attitude in a relationship. So I would have to also call it out gently and say that, you know, is it any wonder that your partner may be feeling taken for granted? Right. But coming back to you, right, you're saying about how it is hard for you to express it. And I can understand that because maybe in our culture or in certain culture, you're not raised to be needy. You know, a lot of people are fearful of being needy. I don't want to tell you, I don't want to be perceived as being needy. So I shouldn't make too much demands. If I make too much demands, I'm unreasonable. I'm not like a considerate partner and all that. And I think these are mistaken beliefs. And I think in a relationship, in a healthy one, couples should be able to express and share the needs for them to flourish or to feel safe in the relationship. The whole idea about it is to, how can I feel closer to you? So it's about the intimacy. So intimacy is not just about the sexual, physical intimacy, but it's actually really bearing your soul to each other.
Yeah.
Right? So then if you want to have intimacy, then you need to be able to express what is truly in your heart. And that would include your needs, the need for maybe the need for affirmation, the need for appreciation, the need for reciprocity.
Wow, this is, thank you. This is crazy because one thing that I struggled a lot, and it's not only, you know, in the romantic context, but for example, long time ago, man, that was 2.5 years ago, I was with a relative, a sibling, and that sibling told me, you do a lot of things for me, and I wish I could do one thing for you to make you happy. And that really hit me when she said that, because a girlfriend had told me the same thing in the past. And then later after that point, you know, I spoke to some friend that I had, you know, I had damaged the relationship with, and I mended the relationship with him. And he told me the same thing. He said, sometimes you do all these things, you know, and it's so much. He's like, and then it makes me feel under pressure that now I need to show you at least a little bit of reciprocity, otherwise you're going to go. But the thing is that whether it's a friend, whether it's a sibling, whether it's, you know, a romantic partner, I don't know what to ask for. You know what I mean? I have no idea, because if I want something for myself, I just go get it, you know?
Sure.
I just, so like if a partner would tell me right now, okay, fine. You want me to do something for you? Tell me what you want me to do. I don't even know what I would say.
Right,
you know?
Right. Okay. And so I think in this case, it's probably good to just find out when this habit of not prioritizing your own need begins, you see. So I can share a little bit about my own journey in this case, right? So I used to be a really independent and self-sufficient person as well, you know, and I would actually be the giver rather than the taker. And I think one of the reasons for that is being the giver, I have more control. right? So I can control when I want to give, how I want to give it, how frequent I want to give it, right? But then as a receiver, I have no control of it. So to be a receiver, I realized that I need to be open or to be vulnerable, because sometimes they may not give it to me when I want it. And that was very, very scary for me. But I think the turning point for me was when I became sick. When I had a rare illness called moya disease. And this was quite a while ago, maybe about 20 years actually. So I think when I first fell sick, it was quite hard for me to also receive kindness and help from other people. But I actually learned to train myself to ask for something. Like when I have friends who would come to the hospital to visit me, then they will ask me, what would you like me to bring you? You know, simple things like that. And I think in the past, I probably would say, oh, nothing, just come. But then I realized that they wanted to do something for me.
Yeah.
So I need to give them a chance to actually show their love and concern. So I may say, okay, why don't you get me a journal? Or maybe you could get me like a drink from this place. Or you could buy me like an eye shade so that I can sleep better at night. So I begin to kind of like make small requests like that. And they appreciate it because they really wanted to be there for me. So I think it from their point of view. How can I also help them to help me? And then that allows me to be more generous in receiving, actually.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was also like a process for me. So right now, I think I'm quite good at receiving. I'm quite good at asking too. Yeah, and I think it is like a muscles that you have to train.
Oh man, because because I don't know if for me it's like a fear of looking needy and hence being abandoned, because then now I'm looking needy now.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's coming from that. Because the thing is that I don't, and that I'm at a stage now when I'm dating that, it's not like I need anything from that person. To be honest with you, I'm genuinely curious to know about the person and to see if we can become friends. And it's not like I want something, I need something from that person. After a date, I go home and I'm good. I hang out with my friends and stuff. I'm not escaping anything when I'm meeting with that person.
Yeah. But if I may just highlight a little bit, right, Nassim?
Yeah.
I mean, you say that you don't need anything, but I think you probably would like the companionship, isn't it?
It's uncharted territory for me.
Like companionship, right?
Yeah.
Or like having somebody to do things with. So that's companionship.
Yeah.
And maybe you would like to have some kind of connection as well, so that you can talk about things, right? So that is a kind of like, generally speaking, that will be connection. So fundamentally, you have the need for connection. That's why you are going out to meet somebody. Secondly, you have the need for companionship or communication so that you can speak. So those are the needs already, isn't it?
Yeah. No, yeah, you're right. And but the thing is that for me, I never truly done that. Like I confused that with other stuff. And so in the past, my relationships, there was no vulnerability from my side. And it was pure explosion, man. Like I would be burning the candle from both ends. And after 2 months, I feel like I'm in front of a stranger I don't want to have anything to do with anymore. And so you see, there was no, and forget about me expressing that. Like there was no connection, there was no vulnerability, there was no intimacy. I was confusing sex with intimacy. And so for me, you see companionship and that connection you are talking about, I think that would be great, but it's not something that I don't even know what it is. It's like when I was a kid, when my uncle told me about white chocolate and I didn't know what it was. What you're describing now is like white chocolate, and I haven't tasted it.
That's all right. That's all right.
But you know what I mean? It's like completely new for me. Like,
but what are the shifts that you have noticed in terms of your attitude towards relationship?
So now I'm trying really to stay away from the explosion angle, and I'm really like, I'm really trying to take time to know the person, to see if we can become friends and get to know that person a bit more and understand what are the both sides, right? What are the things that I really like in that person? What are the things that I don't like that much in that person. And so this is where I am right now. It's more like of an exploration, and that's the first time I'm doing this. Like in the past, for me, it was pure, and I remember like the other day you told me about the difference between lust and love. Lust is what, maybe I forgot the way you phrased it, but you said that love is a decision, and lust is more like a reaction to things, right? To stimuli and to things I see, things I hear, things I imagine. And for me, that was that in the past, right? I see it, I want it, and I think I'm in love because I'm consumed by it. But it's not love, it's passion, it's a lot of things, but it's not love. And so I would fall into it, like with everything, but I would get out of it as fast as it started. And I did not understand what was going on, and my partner was not understanding either.
Right.
And so now what I'm doing now is that I'm taking it very slowly, trying to understand, and I'm staying away from what sounds like, catching fire, what looks like catching fire. I'm genuinely staying away from it because I know how it ends. It ends with me feeling like, short between the reality and what I was anticipating. Is that something that you see a lot, because it must break a lot of couples, no?
Yes. Okay, I have seen a lot of couples, but the couples that I'm seeing, they're mostly have been married for a little while. So what you're describing would be more for like those who have yet to get into like a committed or longer term relationship.
Yeah.
So I what I'm hearing is quite a bit of perhaps confusion as well, right? As to like what exactly is love, and I think, how do you even explain such a big concept such as love? And I think different people would define it differently as well. But for the purpose of discussing about healthy relationship, then I think love is actually the affection. You have to start with an affection, meaning like affection would means like the chemistry that you feel, the attraction that you have with each other. Without the attraction, you're just going to be good friends, right? You're not going to progress to like lover or like to something that is deeper. So the role of the affection and infatuation is important to connect at the start, right? Then after that, once all the conversation happened, and then maybe after you have your first fight, then you realize that, actually it's not just love, right? Because we still need to have some kind of a skill to navigate the differences, right? So when you move into a deeper stage of the relationship, then it will require some level of commitment and decision. So at every time that you review, even like as you think about it, you'll be thinking, do I still want this? Right? Am I still committed to this? And if I'm committed to this, what actions should I take? Because you cannot not take action. So a lot of the people that I've met, I realized that they stop at saying, there's a problem. And then they say, okay, let's just let the problem sit there for as long as it can be. Or we can maybe look at the problem for a little bit and then cover it up again because it's just too much to keep talking about it.
Yeah.
So in that case, you are not really cherishing the relationship, are you? You're not really investing in it. You're avoiding it. You're not giving it the environment where it can truly flourish.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so the first step, yes, attraction leads to connection, leads to the decision to actually want to make things work. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And you were giving, you were mentioning, this thing of like not wanting to address the problem because it's too much right now. And that's what I used to do in the past. I used to believe that time will take care of it, and, put it under the rug. And it was not.
You're definitely not alone. So we call this conflict avoidant behavior.
Yeah.
And many, many people do have that, which is why for conflict avoidant people, they will just bottle it up for as long as they can. And then one fine day, they erupt. And then the partner will be like, how is it that I don't know about this? We've been together for like 10 years or like 5 years or whatever, right? And then say that, why didn't you even tell me about it? Then the person will say, how is it that you can't see that I've been unhappy?
Wow. For me, the answer was, for me, it was more like, I didn't want to hurt you. That's why I didn't bring it up. And I found things would, I felt it was for me to accept. It was for me to, I don't know. I was really hoping that this thing would solve itself out. You know what I mean? And I didn't want to hurt the person. I didn't want the person to feel like she was not good enough. She was not. But yeah.
Yeah, but then the thing is, if you don't want the hurt person, you ended up building resentment, and then in the end you decide to leave. That would truly be hurting the other person.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think it is really quite common for people to feel that way. And so they will say things like, oh, I've really tried. I really tried to give you what you need. I really tried to put up with your bad behaviors. I have really tried, and I don't think I can try anymore. So they are talking about their trying in terms of suppressing their emotions.
Yeah.
Thinking about like, oh, maybe you don't like this, I'll do something else. You make this request, I'll do it. But then the trying but this is not real trying, because you are using your current repertoire of skills to handle with things. You're not learning new skills to handle it. The new skills will be things like, how am I going to have this difficult conversation? How am I going to regulate my emotions so that I can speak with you calmly without raising my voice? What can I do to interrupt the process when I feel overwhelmed so that both of us can actually take a time out, calm ourselves down, soothe ourselves, and then talk about it again? So those are the new skills that I find many couples are lacking. They're not aware of it.
Oh. And escaping right now is so easy.
Yeah, it's the easiest thing to do.
Yeah, because it's like, I mean, I don't want to sound like, like I'm an old fart and I'm complaining about this, the new days and age. But like right now, I have at least 3 singles bars on my phone. You know what I mean? It's like if I want to meet with singles between Instagram, Facebook, I don't even need to open a dating app. Like I was listening
Good
to
for
that.
you.
Yeah, no, but you know what I mean? As in, like that the divorce lawyer the other day, I saw that on a podcast. He was talking about how Instagram, right? It's not a dating app, but it gives access to so many people posing with beautiful, pictures and stuff, that it really creates that idea that, oh, actually there is better out there. You know what I mean?
Correct.
In the past, it was not like that.
Yeah.
Right? It was not on your phone.
Sure.
You had to...
Not so accessible.
Yeah. Like, do you see that? Do you see that increasing now? Do you see a lot of, people just giving up because they are like, you know what? There are so many better options out there.
I wouldn't say that I've seen it, but definitely there's a lot more comparison made. Social comparison made. Like, because of the social media, right? You can see what your friend's partner may be doing. And so you'd be saying like, so-and-so husband has done that. So-and-so wife has done that.
Wow.
What are you doing for me?
Okay.
For giving birth, there is a push gift. My friend's push gift was this. I didn't get any push gift.
What's a push gift?
Push gift is like push the baby. So
okay. Sorry.
pushing the baby, so then you have a push gift.
Okay.
Right?
So and push gift is what? Is someone
it's like appreciation for the wife who has given birth.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Right?
Yeah.
Or like maybe you say that, we have to go for baby moon because my friends are doing that. So pregnancy, baby moon will be like the honeymoon before the baby comes.
Okay. That's the first time I'm hearing that.
Really?
Okay, I'm gonna make some notes later in case I become a dad. Yeah. A baby moon. Okay.
Yes. And so then, what people don't realize is that on social media, what you are looking at will be the outside, and you are comparing with your inside.
Constantly. Yeah. Wow.
Right? You're comparing with your inside. And everybody, when they post, they would want to look good. Nobody will want to look bad. And therefore, it is already curated.
Yeah.
It is how they want it to be received by the audience, by the person who kind of like posted and said that this is the impact I want. But you do not know whether they are having a fight behind closed door.
Yeah.
Right? But you know your own fight behind closed door.
Yeah.
Right? And so that actually creates the imbalance. And I think it is important to pause and think about it and say, what am I comparing with?
Yeah.
And why am I doing this comparison even? You see? And the antidote to this is actually quite simple. You want to hear it?
Yeah, sure. Don't keep it for the next episode. It's okay. We can do it right now. Yeah.
I'm trying to lengthen this so that I can come back.
Yeah.
So the antidote to kind of like envy or jealousy or the social comparison is actually to be grateful. right? To kind of like really look at what is good in your relationship. Because actually nobody would like to be told that they have been compared to someone else's husband or wife. I mean, you wouldn't like it too. But then we have no qualms doing that to our partner. But if the partner were to do it, my best friend's wife did this. And then the wife would be like, why do you compare me with that? Well, then the reverse is not true. They do it also, you see. So actually the antidote to it is to remember to be grateful for your partner.
Yeah.
Right? To kind of like remember what is it that you appreciate and admire about it. And this is also part of the 7 principles in the Gottman method also. Fondness and admiration. Do you continue to show fondness and admiration to your partner? Do you remember why you love each other? And so when you recall that can actually help you to reduce the focus on what is lacking rather than what you already have.
So, sorry, I'm a bit... when you brought this thing up, I mean, it's like, you're talking about something I don't know, like, do you remember why you have fondness and admiration? In my relationships in the past, man, I never even went there, I never even went there. And it's, it's... like the Gottman thing, is it do they give some sort of training for couples to be a couple? Like, how does it work?
They do have that, actually. So the 7 principle, there is a program where they just focus on teaching the 7 principles. All right. And I'm certified in teaching that as well. So that is for like couples in preparation for a committed relationship. And then there are also principles for married people, and then the intervention, which I also apply in my work. Yeah. The Gottman methods, CouplesTherapy. You see, so the 7 principle, which we can Google. Maybe I'll just refer I'll just list out the 7, right? Sure. So the first one is enhance your love maps, right? Love maps will be how well do you understand each other, inner and outer world. So the outer one is very easy. What are your preference? What do you like to eat? What don't you like to eat? How do you like your morning ritual to be like? So these are things on preferences, right? So love maps will be your knowledge about it. So these are the easy one, but the inner thoughts will be the most important. Those are the things that will change. You see, it's like when you go through certain milestone in life, you actually would change. And so it's very, very important to have ongoing conversation about love maps, especially during the transition period to become parent. Because this is the stage where a lot of women have a significant shift in their mindset from thinking about myself to thinking about my child. Yeah. And sometimes they focus so much on it and they forget about their partner.
MAPS, is it an acronym?
No, MAP, like the maps.
Okay.
So the map of like the love map of your partner. Okay. What is going on in the person's mind, attitude, belief, values, things like that. Yeah. So that's the first one, right? The love maps. Yeah. The second one is what I said earlier about nurturing your fondness and admiration. Right? And then the third one is turning towards each other instead of away. So Gottman talk about bidding, BID, bid. We make a bid when I say something like, hi Nasim, so I'm bidding to you, right? Kind of like, hi. Then positive bid will be you saying, hi Win, and then that will be turning towards. But you can also just be looking at your phone and walk past me, right? So that will be turning away. Right. So a lot of time, because of the devices, many people are turning away from their partner without realizing. Yeah. And then the third one is actually turning against, meaning like, what? You say, hi, I said, what? Then you walk away. Yeah. So that is turning against. It's a little bit more aggressive or belligerent, not really responding properly, right? And so the research by the Gottman says that turning away is actually more disastrous or detrimental than turning against.
Yeah, because it's so subtle.
Yeah,
because it looks harmless.
It looks harmless. Yeah, exactly. Right. You I'm not sure if
neutral.
Did you you didn't hear me, or you intentionally don't want to hear me. And so that is actually really detrimental. And so couples who are flourishing, those who are really good and happy in their marriage, they turn towards each other more often than not. It is not perfect, but then they will actually be kind of like, okay, wait a minute, darling, I'm going to get back to you later. So that is still turning towards rather than, oh, I don't care what you're doing, I'm going to just go. So turning towards each other is actually a good skill. If there's anything that you want to start doing, just pay attention to how you respond to your partner. Are you ignoring your partner most of the time, or are you actually trying to give your fullest attention?
Yeah.
All right. So that's the third one. The fourth one would be letting your partner influence you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like how?
Like how it would be like if I have a position on something that I feel strongly about, and then your partner has something else, be open to listen. So it should not be like your partner compromising to your idea all the time. So accepting influence can also sound something like that. Like I hear this quite a lot also. Like the husband will come and complain to me, you know what? When I tell my wife to do certain things, she will not listen to me, and she will actually go and ask her friends. And then when her friends give the same solution, and then she'll come back to me and say, oh yeah, you're right. So that means you are actually giving more weight to what other people think rather than your own partner.
Yeah, not good at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so accepting influence is being open to what your partner has to say, trusting that your partner has your well-being at heart. And I think this is a lot of trust. Like letting go of your own self into the care of your committed partner and saying that actually I trust that you will have my best interests at heart. And so when you say this and you are challenging me, it is not because you don't like me, but it's because you truly care about me. You're right? So that would be on letting your partner influence you in decision making. So there are some people who are so independent that they will just decide on their own and they don't really go and consult the partner. Yeah. Right? So that can also create a lot of unhappiness. Why didn't you consider my feeling? Why didn't it occur to you that I need to be part of that solution process, right? Yeah. So the fifth one, I'll go on. The fifth one is about solve your solvable problems. Yeah. So here it suggests that there are two types of problem. You have solvable problems that can be solved, and you also have perpetual problems. Perpetual problems, as the name suggests, it cannot be solved. And so I think in any relationship, you want to focus on solving all the solvable problems first. So an example of that would be like perhaps routine in the morning. What time you want to get up, what kind of activity you want to do. So these has clear solution. Or the other one that is a common one would be household chores. Yeah. I have couples who really fight over household chores and they feel really silly about it. They say, oh, I feel really silly for fighting about household chores, but I cannot help it. So household chore will be also in the category of solvable problems because you can find a resolution to it. You just have to agree to some kind of a system. Perpetual problem, on the other hand, will be to do with your own habits, with your own belief system. So it could be things like money, how to spend money, how to spend time. Yeah. How to spend time, how much time is needed to spend with family, with friends. How do you want to parent? Oh. Yeah, so these are actually perpetual problems. So if you marry person A, you will inherit the set A is kind of a perpetual problem. If you marry a person that B, you actually will inherit a different set of perpetual problem.
Why is it called a perpetual problem? Is it because it's like a routine? It's like a permanent...
Perpetual means it's ongoing. It's ongoing. Not gonna, it's ongoing. Okay. It's forever. Yeah. So for perpetual problem...
Sounds more like a habit than a problem, no?
It's not a habit. It's actually your belief system. So like money, how do you spend money? Okay. So I may think that, okay, if I feel that money is just a means to an end and my partner think that money is scarce, then we're going to fight because I may not save so much. And then the other party will say, oh, I must save because there's never enough. We must keep saving money. Yeah. So when you fight, you're actually fighting about your belief system rather than the actual money, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's an example, a clear example of perpetual problem. The other perpetual problem probably be like relationship with in-laws, right? So that is also a common one in our society, in our culture here. Yeah. So yes, it's called perpetual because it cannot be resolved easily. And so for perpetual problem, the way to deal with it is ongoing dialogue. You must keep talking about it. You have to understand what drives your position. Right? So it can be quite tiring. You may not find resolution easily, but you have to be willing to say, what makes you feel that way? So you have to have curiosity. You need to have interest. You cannot say that that's a very stupid position that you have. Right? I don't understand. I don't get it why you actually feel that way. Then when you say things like that, you close down the dialogue. So you have to keep the ongoing conversation and you need to be patient with the process. And this is particularly so for interracial, intercultural kind of a relationship.
For me, it feels equivalent to high rocks. You heard of high rocks?
In the fitness thing?
Yeah, because man, it's so much. What you're describing is so much. I've never even done like 10% of that. And so like I have this friend, Adrian, is going to come on the podcast very soon. And what he was telling me is that he does couple therapy with his partner on a monthly basis. And he was saying because it's like a car. You don't wait for your car to be totaled before you bring it to the auto shop. Right?
Absolutely.
So is it something you see couples doing? They come see you once in a while regularly, like once a month to check that everything works?
So for this one, it depends. So usually I will see them so we're talking about healthy relationship rather than the repair and the troubled relationship, right? So I do see
maintenance,
Yeah. So the maintenance, usually they will come in and say, okay, we identify conflict management as an issue. So then I'll work with them on it. And then they're happy, they're stable. Then I say, okay, we can take a break. And then maybe we'll check in about, actually not even a month. It can be 3 months to 6 months.
Wow.
As long as they're stable, because you also need time to continue sharpening your skills, you see.
And you use those 5 things, kind of like you use those 5 angles that you listed out
just now.
Yeah, some sort of checklist for the relationship, like when you catch up with them.
No, actually, I would kind of like, it's simpler than that. I will usually just say that, please, which is what I do in all my sessions, like. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being very satisfied and 1 being the least satisfied, where would you rate your satisfaction of the relationship right now? So they may say, those troubled ones will say 2 or 3. And then those who are here in for maintenance may say 6 or 7. And I say, what would be a good enough rating for yourself? So if you're saying my good enough rating is about 7 to 8, once you hit 7 to 8, then you are free to go.
Yeah.
But you just maintain at 7 to 8. And the moment you need to remember the lower boundary, right? If the bottom is actually 4 or 5, then once it's lower than 4 or 5, then you should seek help to kind of like repair and to step up on your actions to build connection.
The level of trust needed for this thing, like, because I can't see myself, doing that if I'm not 100% certain that, my partner is on the same page. You know what I mean? That she's going to, she's as interested and committed as I am, for this thing to work. Because, and so when it's war, when it hits the fan, what do you do then? When
you hit the fan, so it's actually the point of the next one, number 6. Yeah. So we were at number 5 just now on the problem. So number 6 is actually overcoming gridlock. So we are describing is gridlock, right? We cannot move. We are stuck in a certain place. So in gridlock, it is a very, very painful place to be. So I think at the stage of gridlock, you have to also find out what are the important things to you, right? What are the core needs that you have? And then again, evaluate and talk about it with each other. So to overcome gridlock, you always have to understand. So there is a saying in the Gottman practice, understanding precedes solution. So you don't go to solution unless you have significant understanding of what is going on, you see. So for gridlock, you cannot move. Then you have to try to understand the root of the issue. And then you have to have enough regulation to talk about it calmly. And then you have to assess what are your non-negotiable and the flexible area. So this is about compromise already. Yeah. And I think a lot of people are allergic to compromise. Why should I compromise? Right? Like, why can't you compromise? So we always have that kind of expectation. And I want to say that for compromise, you need to understand that you should never compromise beyond who you truly are. So you cannot be like saying, I always use this example about like, if you grow up not eating meat and then your partner say you must eat meat, you shouldn't compromise on that because that's quite firm, right? Yeah. Because the moment you do that, you are shortchanging yourself. So you shouldn't compromise to the point that you are sacrificing who you are. But you can draw it out in a circle and say that within this area, what are the things that I can compromise? Perhaps I can compromise on the way we do things. I can compromise on the other thing, on how I can speak to you, how we are going to navigate differences, right? All our differences, our preferences for activities on the weekend and things like that. So those are considered the negotiable part of it. But you also need to know what are the non-negotiable. So for some, the non-negotiable could be perhaps I really need to go to church for somebody who is a believer, right? So I cannot negotiate on that. Every Sunday, I must go to church. But after that, we can do everything else. So as long as you schedule something after the church, I'll be okay. So then that is a very clear non-negotiable, you see.
And but I imagine that people need to walk into your office in order to be able to sit and go through that stuff, right? Because I know that for me in my past relationship, when I was going into that gridlock, for me that was it, man. Like I was simmering, marinating, and eventually I'm like, you know what? Yeah, you're not happy. I'm not happy. It's okay. Let's just call it quits.
Yeah. And so that is the value that I think couple therapy would offer, right? It's actually really in providing that neutral space. Yeah. For each partner to be free to express what is truly in their heart, because sometimes you get repercussion if you say on your own. You may say certain things and then maybe your partner will fly into a rage or they may walk out of the room, and so I think the value in seeing a therapist is really to have a neutral third party who will be there to facilitate. And I want to make this clear that I'm not there representing the couple therapist, right? I'm not there to mediate. I'm not like a referee, like I'm listening to this and listen to that. But my job is actually to ensure that what is good for the relationship, right? So I say that if you do A, is it really good for the relationship in terms of bringing you closer together, or is it going to bring you further apart from each other? So my loyalty is not to the individual partner, but it's to the relationship. Yeah,
the system between the two.
Correct. And a lot of people are like, oh, you are a female, so you're going to side my wife, which is quite common. I said that if you believe that, then I cannot work with you because there's no trust. Because my loyalty is to the marriage, to the connection, you see. Whatever that is bad for the connection, I will call it out. And whatever that is good for the connection, I will encourage you to do more of it.
When I was in class, my lecturer was saying that when people come for like that, the Gottman doctors, I think, is it 2 doctors or is it 1 doctor? Gottman?
It's actually husband and wife. John Gottman is the researcher. Julie Gottman is actually a clinician and practitioner also.
Thank you. And so my lecturer was saying that usually when couple come for this, usually it's already too late.
Oftentimes it is, which is why I'm also working really hard to talk about prevention, right? A lot of time it is very, very sad for me, especially if they have young families, right? And they come in and then they say, oh, there is an affair, or maybe there is some other complication. And then and one partner is almost out of the relationship already, and they come in thinking that it is their last-ditch effort. And I personally do not like that at all, because when you say there is a last-ditch effort, it tells me that the marriage is not of that much value to you, because you have to wait So it's the last ditch effort that
I'm
you come
already
in
one
for.
foot out. Yeah.
Correct. You're one foot out already. If you have one foot out, what do you expect the therapist to do?
It's like almost like doing due diligence before taking it behind the barn and doing what has to be done. You know what I mean?
It's almost like a reason for you to say, see, I've gone and seen a therapist, so we should really go to the lawyer now. And one session is not going to be able to fix your relationship, right? So I think for cases like that, I feel really sad because even if I'm really good at what I do, I don't have the chance to actually show it because you already decide that the relationship is not worth saving, you see.
What are the points of no return?
Huh?
What are the points of no return? What are the
points of no return?
Yeah.
I think the points of no return is when one partner has checked out, and this can be in terms of like they no longer care about the other partner. They're not angry anymore. They're actually quite indifferent.
Wow.
Yeah, they're indifferent and they say whatever, you know. And then a lot also stay on for functional purposes. Like, okay, I don't want my children to grow up in a broken family. And so we're just going to continue to have like a outwardly full family, but actually inside is broken. Yeah, it's quite sad that way. And I think that it's a reality for many actually. So it's quite hard to talk about it because I feel sad that at this stage, right, then it is really quite minimal as to how we can intervene. And therefore, my goal or my mission is actually to highlight the need to have regular health check, as you said it, just like how you will fine-tune your car, you know, every few months. You know, people treat the car better than than the marriage, isn't it? Isn't that strange?
Yeah. And that there was a divorce lawyer and a psychologist that was saying that, you know, when people buy a house and they buy a car, it's a very conscientious decision. You know, they look at a lot of things. But when they get married, it's the opposite.
Yeah.
Like it's more like an irrational, very emotional thing, and they sign a contract. And
but I have to say that things are changing a little bit. I'm a bit more hopeful because the younger generation are more conscientious about it. They are a little bit more aware of their own, the baggage that they bring into the relationship. They know about intergenerational trauma. They don't want to repeat the old patterns. So I do see a lot more younger couples who are coming in to learn about the skill. So that delights me tremendously, you know. But there are still a lot of people who believe that their problems are not big enough to actually seek help. So you cannot, if you have that kind of mindset, by the time you come in, your problem will not be able to be fixed because it's so big. Not just because it's so big, but because the hurt that has been kept in the heart has grown so big that your heart has hardened. So there's no way of softening it.
Well, something that surprised me in your answer, you know, regarding the point of no return is that it was a lot of inward, quiet desperation. You mentioned the partner has checked out, or you mentioned also about resignation, meaning we do that to keep the roof above the head of the children.
Yeah.
So, you know, we keep the apartment or we keep the house. We don't have to. But I mean, maybe I'm naive here. But that makes me, I mean, you said that those were the points of no return. But for me, it's like, those are just ideas and you can replace an idea with another idea. There is no chance for people that get there?
You can have a chance to, there is, if you want to snap out of it when you confront the problem and say, hey, this is not what I've signed up for. This is not my idea of marriage. Let's do something about it. You know, so there is always a point to intervene until you call it quits. It's just that sometimes by the time you intervene, it has been like 10 years or 15 years or 20 years.
Wow.
Then how are you going to repair and make up for all those years, you see? Because trust is built. Trust is broken by bit. You chipped it away when you didn't care about it. Or when you may think that, I lied the first time, or maybe I didn't honor my word the first time. But if you multiply that by 100 times, then the hurt is actually quite tremendous. Right? Yeah, what do I want to say? I want to say that it is not so hopeless like that. I think if both parties are willing to actually really invest and let go of the past, it can be done still, but it will require a lot of clarity on their part as to why they want to be together again. Because you are living apart, although you are living together. Emotionally, you are apart. So the saddest thing in a marriage is to be lonely in a marriage.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that is what happened to many of the couples that I see. They feel like they are married, but actually they are not getting the benefit out of their marriage. So they are feeling lonely, they are feeling disconnected.
You've ever seen people who are separated and come to you to do some therapy to see if they can rekindle the flame and restart the relationship?
Yeah, I have. I have seen them. And then it also depends on how willing are they to learn new skills. Because sometimes they may say like, oh, I've already in my mid-50s. I don't think I can change anymore. I don't like to talk, so I don't want to communicate. Then if they have that kind of idea or position, then it's very hard to do any work because you've already decided that you don't want to do it. Yeah. So, but for those who are genuine about wanting to reconnect, I have helped couples in their 60s, and they actually don't really require a lot of sessions, like maybe 4 or 5 or 6. And then after that, once they see how they can communicate more effectively, then they can go without my help, or if they have clarity on why they're together, or if they still remember what brings them together. So the fondness and admiration is important.
Yeah.
If you have forgotten why you love each other, or you have forgotten the strength of your partner, then it's very, very hard to actually rekindle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. And yeah, I mean, it makes me very, because of the past relationship and stuff, I'm like, I wish I had gone for couple therapy. So there is one thing, right? I mean, that for men, it's very difficult to express, some part, because for me, I might find that it's a shameful thing to say, or that it's, it might hurt my partner in the moment if she hears that. So is it part of the approach that sometimes you would see one-on-one? One of the
yeah. So for one-on-one, I will coach on this. I mean, it is good that you care about how your words or your honesty will affect your partner, and therefore you withdraw or you've withheld yourself from saying it. But then I think you need to look at the longer term consequences. See, if it breeds resentment, then you're not doing anyone a favor. And so in session like this, I will actually help the individual to identify how to actually say in a way that is actually respectful and yet true to how you're feeling, right? So for example, I'll say that, okay, you can say something to your partner like, this is something that is very hard for me to express to you, but I've thought about it for a few days. And I realized that if I don't tell it to you, you're not going to have an understanding of how I feel. And the purpose of this conversation, this difficult conversation, is for us to grow closer together, not for me to find faults with you. It's actually really hard for me to say these things to you. And so I want you to know that I'm only doing this because it is for the good of our relationship and for our connection. So you can kind of like set the tone of the conversation first. And then you always want to highlight the outcome that you want. The reason why we're having this difficult conversation is so that we have no question about our intentions. Or the reason why we're doing this is so that we are on the same page about problems.
Thank you. And so, because earlier you mentioned that sometimes it's just too late. So what are the things that people should be looking for? What are those key signs that are like, yeah, you need to go for couple therapy right
warning
now.
Signs,
Drop everything.
right?
Yeah.
Warning signs. Yeah. Okay. Warning signs of ailing relationship.
Yeah.
When you're living independent life or parallel life. Right? So you just stay together, you do family event together, but actually you stop communicating what is truly in your heart. You don't care anymore, right? And then you may have what ties you will probably usually be children, right? So that you can say, oh, let's organize for a family trip. But then when you are at the family trip, you may be doing separate things. I think the tell sign will be when you stop talking to each other, or you don't enjoy each other's company anymore, or you have lost that friendship. Yeah, or you don't even like each other anymore.
And there are so many passive ways of doing that. Like, for example, zoning out in front of Netflix.
Yeah. Instead of having a conversation.
Yeah.
Right? Or playing your own games, or burying yourself in your work. A lot of people do that also. Not like being workaholic seems to be prized. Oh,
So
I'm
acceptable.
actually, it's acceptable, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm bringing in the money for the family.
Yeah.
But it's also an avoidance tactic, right?
Absolutely.
So that you don't want to be at home and face the challenges at home.
Yeah.
At least at work, you get some kind of validation of your worth.
Yeah.
Right? So that is also a problem.
Yeah. And I mean, it's for me, I wish I had heard all of that like 2 years ago or something. Because the thing is that, like when I watch movies, TV shows, I never hear, what you said earlier, like being able to be vulnerable and explain that, there is something that hurts me right now, but I'm afraid that if I say it to you, it's going to hurt you. So, but I'm going to work on it. I'm seeing Winifred next Monday or something. And like in movies, it's not like that, right? In movies, it's like, it has to be love, passion, and like, otherwise that means it's not the right person.
Because the reality of relationship is not so sexy, and we are blown by what is sexy and effortless.
Yeah.
Right? That's why Hollywood show is so addictive, right? We want to know the fairy tale story and all that. But in reality, there's a lot more work. So perhaps we need to be more forthcoming in talking about the challenges in relationship and how we can strengthen it.
That reminds me, there was this guy, his name is Craig, he lives in Australia. And we were talking about, the infatuation and the butterfly in the chest. And he said, what he told me? He said, what butterflies in the chest are? He said, it's your common sense leaving you. Do you really want to make life decisions over this? And because like I recall you were talking about how love is a conscientious decision. My cousin told me the same thing. Like we were, I'm single right now, so I play video games with him like until midnight or something like that. And he told me this thing like over the weekend. He said, maturity is deciding who you are falling in love with. Instead of just, and so like having said that, regarding the conscientious decision, and there is some work needed here. So whether it's people who are single or people who are dating or people, who are in a relationship now, what are some key directions, guiding principles or advice you would like to give for anyone listening, watching right now?
Okay. I think the key advice will be to ensure that the communication channel is always open.
Mm-hmm. And
then you also need to explore shared activities together. If you don't enjoy spending time with each other, that's a clear warning sign also, right? So if you're like, I actually like to do things with my friends or by myself, then why are you together, right? So I think that there must be effort to actually have common activities where you can experience life together, right?
But activities as in, are you talking about hobbies? Are you talking about...
hobbies, or you can, if you're both into volunteerism, then you can go and do volunteer together.
Yeah.
Or if you have certain cause that you feel passionate about. I'm not saying that you have to do everything together, but there must be something that is joining you as well. So this is another element in the 7 principles, which is about the shared dream, right? What is the shared dream that you have in this relationship? So the common one would be parenting. We are raising family together. But if you are not raising family together, then what is the common theme that you have? Then it could be like, maybe to be financially independent by a certain age, or I can lead a nomadic life, or, there's certain dreams. I want to go do missionary work in some places 20 years down the road, and then how do you prepare for that? So the shared dream will be something that both of you want to work towards. And so that is something that will bind you together and say, okay, these are the reason why we work so hard for, so that we can achieve these dreams together.
Yeah.
Or you can support each other's dream, right? If you have a partner who say, I really want to do my master's or PhD, it requires sacrifice and require allocation of resources as well. So you need to talk about it and then discuss. So if this time you are supporting my dream, maybe the next time I will also support your dream. Then again, the reciprocity.
Yeah. But thanks a lot, Winifred. That was awesome. Looking forward to seeing you here again.
Oh,
Thank you. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.
thank you. Thank you for having me.
And that's a wrap. Thank you.